نحمده ونصلي على رسول النبي الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. قال الله تعالى في شأن حبيبي: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آله صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم عليه صلاة وسلاما عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Last time we started talking about Yusuf alayhi salam and his story, along with Yaqub alayhi salam, his father, and we had talked about how he saw the dream. His father instructed him not to tell anybody, and then how his brothers plotted against him. One interesting thing about the way when the brothers were plotting against him, they said, let's do this, let's throw him in the well, and then we'll become righteous. And many people, we kind of hear that and we sort of laugh. But unfortunately, if you look at society today, that's the general approach to many things. Among the Muslims, where you see people, they're doing this and that, with the intention of, even though they know it's wrong, and the intention is that, I'll go for Hajj and that will wipe away everything. And that's not exactly how things work. And so, we need to be clear about our intentions. And so here it was, we'll do this and then we'll become righteous. So, we don't need to be following into the same mindset. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one of the reasons that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us this. And then we talked about how he, was thrown into the well and then eventually landed in Egypt, taken to Egypt and sold for a meager price, into the house of one of the chief ministers there. And this chief minister was an older man. He had a wife whose name was Zulaykha, who was much younger than him, and a very attractive woman. And when he takes Yusuf al-Islam, who's a young boy at this time, he takes him to the house and he says, treat him well and make his stay comfortable with us, because perhaps we will benefit from him, and even maybe adopt him as a son, because they had no children. And so, Yusuf al-Islam grew up in this household. So he's growing up in the household as a young boy, and then eventually becoming a young man. And his beauty was something that was very astonishing to everyone who saw him. And so, as he grew, his beauty grew with him. This is an interesting point here, is that one point to understand, if we look at children, and especially if we look at babies, all babies are beautiful. It's just the nature of the baby. And scientifically, they give certain explanations for this. Why are babies across all species, pleasant to look upon? But one of the things that the scholars talk about, as far as babies in general, and also children, is that you look at them and they're attractive and they're pleasant to look upon. Part of this is also because of their innocence. Because they're sinless, and that in itself, the spiritual beauty comes out as a physical manifestation. So, and we see people today, and you see them, and yeah, they're very good people, and they look, you look at them and they're pleasant to look at, and then later on they do something bad, and they become involved in a sin that they justify for whatever reason, and they take on a different character now. You look at them and they have different features, even though artificial intelligence looking at them with a camera, the cameras that they do facial recognition with, that may not be able to pick up on it, but the soul knows. And you look at people, and you look at people that commit a certain sin, and they have certain similar characteristics. Yusuf al-Islam, of course, being a prophet, is innocent, and even among the prophets, he's distinguished, with his beauty, and so he grows up in the household of this chief minister and becomes a young man here. And this is the time that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now commissions him to start delivering his message. If you look at most prophets, they generally remain silent, just simply exemplifying their character until that time comes when now, they're authorized to start preaching. Yusuf al-Islam, of course, he is the only believer in this sea of disbelief. In Canaan, you had other people that were believers, that were followers of the prophets. Now in Egypt, you have nobody. So everybody, they have their own gods and ways of worship, but none of them are believers. And so Yusuf al-Islam is distinguished in this way as well. At this same time now, Zulaykha, the woman of the household, she's drawn and attracted to his beauty and decides, attempts to seduce him. And she hashes out a plan that she basically, beautifies herself and calls him into a room and has all the doors locked to that room and tries to seduce him. And when she calls him to herself, it's interesting how Yusuf al-Islam reasons with her. He doesn't tell her, oh, this is haram, this is forbidden, because in her concept, in her mindset, that doesn't matter. He says that, how can I do this, when my master, her husband, has been nothing but good to him. How can he betray his trust? And this is how he's trying to reason with her, but of course she's blinded by this lust that she has for him, and can't see through anything. So after trying to reason with her, and he also, in Qurtubi's tafsir, he talks about the dialogue between Yusuf and Zulaykha, that she says that, look at me, and he says that these eyes, as his gaze is piercing down on the ground, that, these eyes are to look upon, my Lord, and other aspects of the conversation. But everything that she tries to do, he cuts it off. And so now, when he also realizes that she's not going to listen to any reasoning, and nothing is getting through to her. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, he says that she tried to seduce him, and he would have fallen for this, if he had not seen the sign of Allah. So again, he is a prophet of Allah, whom Allah has favored, and so he knows what is right and what is wrong, but not only knows what is right and wrong, but also believes in this with his whole heart. And so he takes off for the doors. So he opens the door, and in some narrations there are like 7 doors, one after the other, all of them locked. And as soon as he grabs the door, the knob on the door, the lock's open, and he keeps running. And she's running behind him, and she grabs his shirt, and it rips the shirt from the back. And then the last door, when he opens the door, the Aziz of Misr, the chief minister, is standing at the door. And now when she sees her husband there, and Yusuf al-Islam's there, and suddenly her tune changes. So she says to her husband, what is the recompense or the reward or the punishment for one who has tried to seduce your wife? Now she's laying all the blame on him. And so, Yusuf al-Islam says, no, she's the one who tried to seduce me. And one of her cousins was there with a child in her arms. And Yusuf al-Islam points to the child and says that, why don't you ask him? And so this child gives a witness on behalf of Yusuf al-Islam. And the witness is interesting. He says, look at the shirt of Yusuf. If his shirt is torn from the front, then indeed he is a liar and she is truthful. But if his shirt is torn from the back, then she is the liar and he is truthful. And throughout history there have been various children that have spoken in infancy. 3 from the cradle, which Rasulullah mentions, Isa al-Islam, and then 2 others. But then also in infancy you have this child who bore witness to the innocence of Yusuf al-Islam, as well as the child at the buruj, at the pit that was dug, which we'll talk about later inshallah, and the child of the maiden of the daughter of Firaun. So we'll talk about those later inshallah. So when they look at the shirt of Yusuf al-Islam, of course it's torn from the back. So, Aziz, he says to his wife, he says, what have you done? The tricks of the women, they're very great and powerful. He tells her, he said, you need to ask forgiveness from Yusuf. One is you try to seduce him and then you're wrongfully accusing him. And so, the issue kind of dies down for the second. Because this isn't once something that leaders and this great leader in his household wants everybody to know about. It says that his wife is trying to seduce this slave boy. And so of course something like this can't be kept under wraps either. So news spreads. But it spreads mainly through, the hierarchy of Egypt. These women that were the wives of the ministers of Firaun, or of that king or the pharaoh at that time. They're talking, and the conversation is interesting. They say that, see, Aziz's wife, she's trying to seduce this slave boy. And they include in that, they say that she is in manifest error, dalalum mubin again. She's madly in love with him. Of course, and they can't understand, what's in this slave, because for them, these are the women of hierarchy. Their husbands, whether they like their husband or not, whether he's attractive or not, he's got a lot of money. And this is their thought process. This slave boy, what does he have? So Zulaykha, what she does is she arranges a banquet for all of these women that are talking. And she calls them, invites them, and food is all laid out. And they eat, and then each one is given a fruit and a knife. And then at this moment, as they're given the fruit and the knife, she has Yusuf al-Islam come out. And when they see Yusuf al-Islam, they're cutting the fruits, and they start saying, "Ma hadha bashara," that this is not a human being. In hadha illa malakun kareem. Indeed, this is nothing but nothing except an angel from above. And as they're saying this, they're all absorbed in his beauty. They cut their hands and don't even realize it. They're bleeding and they don't even know it. Because they're so absorbed in his beauty. Because Rasulullah said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave half of the beauty of creation to Yusuf alayhi salam. Which is an interesting point, because when I was in college, somebody wanted to argue with me that Yusuf al-Islam was more handsome and beautiful than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he used this narration. He said, see, Yusuf al-Islam had half the beauty of creation, and so only the other half is remaining. So now, from that, everybody else has some beauty. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is left with a little bit. And this was his argument. And so, of course, that's wrong on multiple levels, and I'm going to go through some of these levels. If you look at what Aisha Siddiqa radiallahu anha said when she was asked about the beauty of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the mother of the believers. For whom Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that she is given 2/3 of Islam. There's not a scholar living today who can claim, that he knows even 1/3 of Islam. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, take 2/3 of your religion from her. And when she was asked about the beauty of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she said that if the friends of Zulaykha had seen Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in place of Yusuf al-Islam, that they would have cut their hearts instead of their hands. Of course, beauty is in the eye of the beholder again. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not only the beloved of Allah, he is the creation of Allah. So do you not think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to create his beloved, the most perfect and the most beautiful? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said what? He said, Allahu yu'ati, that Allah is the giver. The hadith is in Bukhari. Allah is the giver. Wa ana al-qasim, and I am its distributor. And here, even though the hadith is in the chapter of knowledge, but in the hadith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam does not limit what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives. And we ourselves know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives everything. Everything that is given by Allah. And so if everything given is given by Allah, he also does not place a restriction on what what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is distributing. So everything Allah gives, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam distributes. And beauty is a gift of Allah. Exactly as knowledge is a gift of Allah. So who is the distributor of the beauty other than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself? And even though Yusuf al-Islam was given half the beauty of creation, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the beauty of creation. So any beauty anyone received is through Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if we are to love Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam over everything else in creation, then that in itself should tell us that he is the most beautiful, for us he is the most beautiful thing in creation. But again, when Allah is his lover, and not only his lover, but his creator, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to create his beloved the most beautiful. Period. This is why, for the believers, death is so easy. Rasulullah said that the death of a mu'min is like pulling hair out of dough. Just easy. Why? Because he sees his beloved at the time of his death. And if he's not one of those who is seeing his beloved at the time of his death, he's anticipating seeing his beloved in the grave. Because the final question of the 3 questions in the grave, and according to Bukhari, the only question in the grave, is what? Ma ilmuka bihadal rajal. What did you know about this man? And in the other narrations, Ma kunta taqulu fi haqqi hadha rajal. What did you used to say in truth about this man? So Rasulullah will be shown to the believers. Because you have to get through the other 2 questions. Ma rabbuka, who is your Lord? Ma dinuka, what is your religion, or what is your way, or what was your way? So you have to get through those questions to get to this last question. So for the believers, who anticipate seeing Rasulullah, that is the objective of their life, of their creation, to look upon him with love. And so death is something very easy because they know this is coming. If you look in the Battle of Uhud, when Quraysh started raining down arrows in the direction of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and basically you have all of these arrows blocking the sun coming down upon you, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam calls out to his companions and says, who is ready to die for me? And 7 of the Ansar stand up immediately, and then one by one they take turns standing before Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, facing him, looking upon him, gazing the objective of their purpose, looking upon the beautiful face of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And all of these arrows coming down upon their backs, one by one. The companion, he would stand and he would be looking at Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam until he could not stand any further. Not because he was hit by one arrow. I mean, the arrows would hit, one after the other. And they were, the companion said that in some of them they count 70 arrows, and some of them 120 fatal wounds. And yet they were still standing there. Because life is looking upon Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So they were medically dead, but they didn't know it, because they were looking upon Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. One after the other, arrow after arrow, not even flinching. Because they're looking upon the beautiful face of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Like these women were looking upon Yusuf al-Islam cutting their hands, even more than that. And then they would fall. One would fall and the other would take his place. And then that one would fall and another would take his place. Until finally the last one, the seventh one of them, Zayd bin Sukan, he's standing there, taking all of these arrows on his back. Looking upon Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam until he cannot stand any further. And then he falls, but when he falls in such a way that he's still looking at Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And there's a conversation going on between the eyes, between him and Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam he knows what his desire is. And he tells his companions, he says, bring him to me. All of these arrows are still flying. They haven't stopped flying. And in the midst of this, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, bring him to me. And they bring him, the companions, they bring him, and lay his beautiful face, his blessed face upon the beautiful feet of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because this was his desire. And this is his life. And this is how he passes. All of this is going on as the Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is bringing the companions back so they can climb Uhud and get away from the assault of Quraysh. Another aspect of this also is, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that a believer is a mirror for another believer. And of course, Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the best of believers. So his mirror is the clearest. And this is why when Abu Jahl, one time Abu Jahl, he came to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said that I have never seen anyone more ugly than you. And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, you have spoken the truth. And Abu Bakr radhiyallahu is right behind him and he says, Ya Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, I have never seen anyone more beautiful than you. And Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that, oh Abu Bakr, you have spoken the truth. This Abu Jahl, who is a constant liar, Rasulullah said, when he says, you've spoken the truth. So when they asked him, they said, why? He said, yeah. He said, because Abu Jahl was looking at his own ignorance. When he was looking in my direction, he did not see me. He saw his own ignorance and the ugliness of his own ignorance. That is what he saw. And so he spoke the truth. And when Abu Bakr looked upon Rasulullah, he saw his own truthfulness, the beauty of his sadaqat, his siddiq, him being siddiq. And so Rasulullah said, you have spoken the truth. The reality is, like Rasulullah said to Abu Bakr, that no one has seen and no one has known my reality except my Lord. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept his Habib in veils, because the world could not handle seeing his reality, the beauty of his reality. Like the women, of Egypt went crazy over the beauty of Yusuf al-Islam when they saw a glimpse of it. So imagine the condition of the world if we saw the reality of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. here, coming back to Yusuf alayhi salam, when Yusuf alayhi salam, after he's brought out and the women are cutting their hands, not even realizing it, saying this is an angel. And then Zulaykha, she says to her friends that this is the one that you blamed me about. And she admits, she said, I truly tried to seduce him and he rejected all of my seduction, all of my advancements. And if he continues to do so, then I will have him imprisoned or punished, a severe punishment. And Yusuf alayhi salam, he prays to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, Ya Allah, he says that prison is better for me, is preferred to me. I prefer prison over what they are calling me towards. So protect me from this. And so the leaders of Egypt, after seeing the condition of their own women and being scared that what's going to happen, all their women are going to leave them. So they decide that the best thing is, even though they knew he was innocent, but they said that the best thing is, let's just put him in prison, get him out of society, away from all these women, and then, we'll have peace again in society. And so that's what they do, is they put him in jail. But when he's entering prison, there are two other men who enter with him. And these two men also when they see him, they see his truthfulness and they're inclined towards him. They see his beauty and they know that this is not an ordinary man. This is someone special, someone loved by Allah. And so they're inclined towards him, and that's what they do. They go to him and they ask him, because they've seen dreams, and they ask him their dreams. And so inshallah we'll start from here next time and start covering this. But this is we learn many lessons from Surah Yusuf, and again, all of these lessons are to point us toward Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the reality and the beauty of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if we miss that altogether, then that's our own loss. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us and protect us. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin barik sallallahu alaihi. Ya Allah, guide us to the straight path and give us your true love and the true love of your beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all of those whom you love, and protect us from the fitna of shaitan and the fitna of Dajjal that we are living in, and keep everyone safe and raise us up in a condition where you are pleased with us and we are pleased with you, and those who are being oppressed throughout the world, protect them. And give them strength over their oppressors, and make us or allow us to see your beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam before you call us back. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala khayri khalqihi Muhammadin wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin.